probably Bioshock, the original Bioshock. That's how many times I've been through that, maybe like 5 or 6 times.
Bioshock 1?
Bioshock 1, yeah. I
That's
still play
shocking.
it. Yeah, look at that.
Such a terrible pun.
Yeah, that's shocking.
I tried so hard on
Is it
that one.
Bioshocking, Rui? I don't know. But, so anyway.
I don't even know how I should intro this.
Welcome to the cast. I'm speaking with Kast and friends.
Yeah, there you go with the friends thing again. What the hell is wrong with Cast and friends? The cast
And friends. I All right.
What?
I'm ready when you are. So, let me know when you want to intro me.
I think we shouldn't even just intro. We should just get into it like this. Just keep going from here on out, and I'll pick like a random point in between to start.
Okay, sounds good.
That sounds good. But
Yeah.
I just like to mention that I'm here with Aaron. There, that's all you guys really need to know.
Hi, I'm Aaron.
And we're going to be talking about video games, and that's the whole point of the cast. There's our intro. Sounds good?
Sounds pretty good. Yeah, I was really impressed. I would have gone with Cast and Friends, but that's okay.
There you go with your cast and friends again. Oh my god. But anyways, let's talk about Injustice then. I haven't played anything about Injustice, but I did see the promo material back in 2011, I think, was the very first time I saw the game. I was like, yeah, it looks like kind of cool. Wasn't that the first time it came out?
2020. It was last year. It was last year. It came out on
Are you
I was
sure it was
there when
last
they
year?
announced it. Yeah, it was E3 last year. It was 2012. I was they had all the banner because I was at E3 last year, and that's when they made the big announcement. And Ed Boon was there, and I got a picture with him, and it was really cool. And I was like, it was a pretty easy sell for me because all you had to say was like, they're like, hey, NetherRealm's doing another game, and I'm like, yes. They could have been doing anything. They could have been doing like My Little Pony, and I would have been excited. So I was just like super excited about it. But they announced it last year at E3, and they had like four or five characters like just that they had like released, and I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was like Cyborg.
The Flash was there for sure.
Cyborg, Wonder, or maybe it was Batman, Cyborg, Solomon Grundy, and then I can't remember. Maybe it was the Flash. I can't
It
remember.
was
But
definitely the Flash. He was in
I think
there,
the Flash
know.
was in it. Yeah, the Flash was probably one of the original ones that they mentioned, and it was great. I watched it and I got really into it, and then I've been kind of like waiting with bated breath for the game to come out, and it just came out last week. This week, and I got it actually a little bit early because we reviewed it, and then it was really cool. I've been the story, actually, I have to say, that's probably the biggest thing well, NetherRealm always is like, they've the guys that kind of have originated the idea of doing story mode in fighting games. But I have to say, this one kind of really, it took me away. I was really impressed with the way that the story came out with this. It's extremely dark considering it's a DC property. But yeah, it's like the premise is that Superman has Lois is pregnant with Superman's kid, and the Joker drugs Superman and makes him think that Lois Lane is Doomsday, and he ends up killing her and his unborn son. And he basically goes crazy and takes over the world. And Batman tries to builds a resistance against him and goes to another universe and pulls the heroes from another universe because Superman killed all the ones in his universe.
Superman killed all the heroes?
Well, anyone who wouldn't abide by his regime, like anyone who was basically fighting against him, like I believe it was like Green Arrow and maybe like I don't know if there's another superhero that does, but like basically he's like basically accept me as your ruler or die. And like if most people like, and so the heroes there either like went to him and like accepted him as the ruler, or they got killed. And so pretty dark stuff. And like everyone's been turned like awful. And like and the other thing is when you're there, Lex Luthor is actually like the good guy. Like he's been Lex, and as opposed to in any other universes, he's been like Superman's closest friend for like forever. So it was kind of interesting, but yeah, the gameplay itself. If you're not a fighting game person, the gameplay is. I'm always really impressed with what NetherRealm does. A lot of people make fun of them. They go, oh, it's super simple. It is, but it's incredibly balanced. And then they really added a lot of depth to this one. I
But
felt
that's
like,
a good thing. The thing about being super simple is a good thing. Like one of the things I really loved about Mortal Kombat, because I bought Mortal Kombat day one. I'm not sure if you know that or not, but like as soon as
yeah,
I think I even pre-ordered it or something, but I didn't really get any bonuses because when you pre-order stuff in Portugal, you don't get jack. It's like when you pre-order stuff over there, you get all kinds of bonuses from GameStop, Best Buy, Target, all those places. You get all different bonuses with that. And here, you pre-order, you get nothing, zero. Like I pre-ordered the collector's edition of God of War. I didn't get anything special for it. Like I think I got like the code for the season pass, and that
uh-huh.
was about it. Like I got nothing else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, well, God of War. Well, the last God of War was. I mean, I guess there wasn't really much special about.
Well, we'll talk about God of War later, but
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
was
no, no,
saying,
no. But for Injustice, yeah, it was. Well, I didn't get anything either though because I ended up getting it early, so I had to like finagle my way on the internet into getting people to be like, "Yeah, here's how you get all these unlocks." And I'm like, "Cool."
but
I really wanted to get the Red Sun one, which was the GameStop over here has a special that if you pre-ordered it, you got the Red Sun skins, which is like apparently it's this alternate timeline in which like instead of Superman landing in Smallville in America, he lands in like the Soviet Union and gets raised as like a communist Soviet son. And it was like a different skin for him, Wonder Woman, and Solomon Grundy. And then they also had like 20. They have these really cool Star Lab missions, which are essentially like the challenge tower for Mortal Kombat. If you played that, but except like they drive me crazy because like I'm a total completionist and like you have to get like each one has like complete it and then there's two other objectives you have to get it really completed. So it's like it's been kind of driving me nuts a little bit, but that's okay.
I am not surprised. I'm kind of a completionist myself when it comes to that kind of stuff. But yeah, we were talking also about the thing about the fact that it's a very simple combat thing.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you, in regards to Mortal Kombat, it's like the fact that it's simple is really, really good because you don't have, like, for instance, I have a friend of mine that really likes playing Blaze Blue. And it's
Yeah.
like
Great
Blaze
game.
Blue, it's one of those games that unless you're like really into it and you practice the combos and stuff, you're not even gonna stand a chance. Like you go up against anyone at all, you just get creamed instantly. There's nothing you can do. And in Mortal Kombat, due to the fact that it was simpler, as they say, but even with that simplicity, I've saw some really wicked combos that you could do with Scorpion and whatnot, like 80% of your bar or something. I think
Oh
some of
yeah.
those even got patched because you would get to a certain percentage and there would be like an explosion. You wouldn't be able to
Well, it's
continue
not
your
about. So it's
combo.
interesting. One of the things that I talked to some of the creators at NetherRealm, and they talked, and this is their like game theory in terms of like how they want to buff the game. What they said, which I really appreciated, was their whole goal. And I think they might have said this on a Twitch interview too. But they said that basically their goal is that like when it comes to balancing fighting games, like our philosophy is that instead of debuffing characters and like or like like making moves take less damage or like doing that kind of stuff, we are all about just improving. Like, so if a character is too strong, then we will improve all the other characters. Like our goal is like instead of being like, okay, this guy's really really powerful, like so we should like we should mitigate that. It's more like, hey, what is it that everyone else can't do to counter that type of move? And then if you can figure that out, then you just increase it and you make it more competitive. And I kind of like that philosophy when it comes to fighting games. I'm a competitive guy when it comes to fighting games, and I think that might be good because a lot of times when fighting games come out and people are like, oh, they nerfed this guy, or they made this move bad. It's like, or they took away something. Whenever you take something away, I think you cause more problems. Um,
I
than if you. I
definitely
think that's the
like
right philosophy. I think.
I like the fact that, as you're saying, it's like instead of using the Nerf bat, they buff everyone else. I think that's a good. I mean, it's a good philosophy up until a point. I mean, if you just keep buffing and buffing, you just get to a point where it's like, oh, I'm gonna punch you once and you're dead. You just get
Yeah.
to insta gib mode, which, but I guess they're not going to
I
let it
mean, the
go
thing
that
is
far.
about like with like Mortal Kombat with those games. I mean, with any fighting game. I mean, look, the degree in which you're changing anything is so small. It's not even going to be felt by the general casual gamer. It's going to be felt by people that are playing on a very very high level that like can understand that. I mean,
The
so
kind of
really like
guys that analyze the frames, like how many frames is that attack? My attack is less frames. This attack is better because it's
Well,
got less
what's
frames.
funny though about the whole frame thing is like everyone's like, first of all, no one's like actually technically frame counting. I mean, like, there's nobody who's like watches a movie like that was 12 frames. It's more like it's about understanding. Well, there's three elements to frame data that you have to understand. It's startup, activation, and then recovery. And it's basically about like if you don't really count the number, but you can tell if something has like a really bad recovery, right? Because what'll end up happening is you'll do the move and then like you miss and then you're like, fuck, it takes me a really long time to like recuperate from doing that move, and then you get nailed every single time. So people do it subconsciously without even thinking about it. That if a certain type of move misses, it's going to take a really long time for, or not like, and a really long time is relative to a fighting game is like maybe like a quarter of a second, but that's a really long time in a fighting game, which every like moment to moment every second counts. So it's a lot of things that like people really recognize in that, right? But in terms of like the buffs and the nerfs that they put into the games, it's more along the lines of like create like when a certain move is blocked by another character, it's like whether or not the recovery for that is faster or slower so that you can pull off another move which could lead into a combo chain or doing things like that. And I know I'm getting like super technical right now, but like basically that's what it really boils down to. Is it's about like and most people don't even realize that that's happening because they don't live in that world where they're like, oh, that this is an issue for me. They're just going like, I like to beat people up, and then when they lose, I feel happy. So, so and then like I like to press all the buttons, and then eventually and then when it's over, if it was a positive outcome, then everything is better. So, but yeah. So
You've just
basically,
described me in Mortal Kombat whenever I'm not playing Scorpion. I'm press every single button in here and I'm gonna figure something out. And
it's actually really funny when I was like when I was like a little kid, my parents took me, I was like in an arcade and I saw Street Fighter 2 for the first time, and I saw somebody like pull off like a Hadouken, like a fireball, and I was just like, oh, I want to do that. And I'm like, well, there's six buttons. It must be one of these many buttons. And I was just like, I pressed all the buttons and nothing's working. And I was just like, what? How is this happening? And then like I didn't understand the idea of doing like a command and then like a move. I was like, that like blew my mind. So like I've technically been with like fighting games since like I was like birthed, like I was baptized in the fighting game world because I like grew up with all of them. I even played like the original Fighting Street, or the original Street Fighter,
yeah,
uh,
the Street Fighter
that had
one, it was
like
pretty bad.
it was pretty awful. There was another game that was very similar to that came out, and it was also like it was like a precursor to a fighting game. I can't remember what it's called, but it was like essentially it was basically that, and like nobody really understood what it was. I'm like, oh, this is a really cool idea, and I really like the fact that fighting games are still a thing now. I'm glad that they had a little bit of a resurgence a couple of years ago, because they are technically, and I would say this, the last bastion of like arcade style games. Uh, that still exist today. I mean, you're not going to play like nobody does like side-scrolling games, really. I mean, well, they do, but it's in a much different. They changed a lot. But they
Yeah,
don't do like side-scrolling brawlers. Like, is not a very popular thing. I mean, sure, you'll see some like indie games that kind of pick it up or do things like that, or like Castle Crashers, and it's all these like niche titles. But fighting games have remained very, very true to what their original inception was when they were
not
created in like
necessarily very true, and that actually leads me to a question, which is, do you prefer 2D over 3D, right?
well, only because the types of games that I like, if it's Street Fighter, if it's Mortal Kombat, if those kind of games are, and I also like Persona and that kind of stuff. I'm getting into King of Fighters, but like those are, I like those because those are just technically my games. But I also play like Dead or Alive. I love Dead or Alive. I think it's a great game. I don't
It's
know how
because
competitive.
me personally is one of the things that I really really like. Is I like the fact that like Mortal Kombat came in and it was this 2D thing, because I'm not a huge fan of the 3D ones. I have to say the 3D fighters. I don't know. But then again, it's one of those things. I don't play a lot of fighters, and the fact that I don't play a lot of fighters probably helps a lot with the fact that I don't like the 3D ones because it's confusing. Like at least in some games, I feel it's confusing the way that some characters move and whatnot. And instead of jumping, they roll around, and I don't know. I don't like that stuff.
It's like I don't understand this 3D space we're in. This is weird. You add another dimension. Like it really would. When you're just like walking around on the street, it's confusing. You're like, I'm on the sidewalk, and then there's stuff happening to the left or right of me. I don't like it at all. I prefer everything to be happening right in front or behind me. So
preferably in front.
Preferably in front. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's weird. I think there's a different philosophy behind the 3D fighters, and I think that like here's the thing. I don't like Tekken, but I respect it for what it is. It is an extremely proficient fighting game. I don't like it because it's boring to me. Like it's a lot of just like bouncing a guy on the ground and then like just like doing these like they have the 10 hit strings that they do in Tekken, and I don't know. To me, I don't find that like the moves that the characters do and the way that they react and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, it might be like a terrific fighting game, but for me, it's just so insanely boring. Like I've watched it at the fighting game tournaments, and I do not get into it. I just like I'm like you know what they had at the last one I was at? They were doing the volleyball like Tekken thing, and like
I remember that from so long ago. I think I actually liked doing that, but.
Yeah, people like it. I
usually play. Boring. I play Warang or whatever the hell the guy who does a lot of kicks.
Yeah, Haorang.
And yeah, he was pretty overpowered in that stuff because you could just do like his ultimate on the ball.
Yeah,
and it's like the ball would one shot you, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry. This was in Tekken 3 though, like leagues.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like the funny thing is, like I got really I didn't have a PS2, so and Tekken 6 was released on the Xbox. And so like I was super excited because I was like, oh great, I really want to try Tekken. I haven't played it in so long. I think the last Tekken game I played was Tekken 3. So I was like, this is great, and I got into it and I played a lot of it. But like, it's just not like when it comes down to fighting games, like, yeah, if it's Mortal Kombat, if it's Street Fighter, if it's one of those games, I'll play it and I'll just consistently come back to it. Tekken, I got bored of. I just put it down. It's nothing against it. It's just not. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't. It just. I mean, Dead or Alive. I love that game. That was one that was the one. It's not. I don't know how competitive it is, but just in terms of like its visual aesthetic, and I'm not talking about the girl's boobs, but I'm talking about just the way that. I was going to go
somewhere with it, and then you said visual aesthetic, and I'm like, oh great, don't even have to go anywhere.
I mean just the way that the characters like dodge and move and do all that kind of stuff. Like to me, like I think it's really fun because it's really fast paced. It's all based on counters and like reversals and changing, like using a person's move against them and that kind of stuff, and it creates this really really fast paced dynamic in the game. That's a lot of fun, I think, and it was a blast when I played it online. Dead or Alive 4 when it came out, I remember I played that online to death. But basically, yeah, like I don't know, like as soon as I'm so happy that the fighting game community has kind of moved back to like the 2D space. Like I thought that was the absolute anytime they tried to turn Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat into a 3D game, I thought that was the worst thing that they did.
Yeah, I think those are two games that should remain in 2D. I mean, or 2.5D, which is what they're considered now. A lot of people say 2.5D because it's 3D models. They look cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, that kind of stuff is cool.
But it exists on a 2D plane. That's where they are, and that's really. And here's the thing, like that's what to me, I agree with you. Like that's what makes it competitive. That's what makes it intense. Is that you're not going to be able to like you can't like move like into the screen and away from the person and just like and there's so many things like the fireballs and the projectiles don't have as much merit when you're not in a 3D playing field. So. I don't know. Yeah, agree with that. That's totally. I'm not as on board. I do like them sometimes, but yeah, I do not. It's not my main thing. I would prefer to play if I'm playing a fighting game, playing something competitive that's like super intense. Keep it in 2D.
Yeah, 2D for the win. We must be the only advocates for 2D. No, in terms of fighting games.
I don't care who I offend. Take that.
Just give me 2 dimensions back. Bring 2 dimensions back. Bring sprites back. No, not that much.
That's insane when you think about it. Like the original like Street Fighter and all those games. I mean, Those were like all hand drawn and like those were insane the way that they created those like characters. They were like just incredibly like each frame, was like an individual thing, like some guy like painstakingly. It was like a Disney movie. you know,
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
that stuff was insane. But we've spent about 20 minutes talking about
Yeah, we can
Injustice.
move on, dude. Don't worry. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, you get me going. I'll just keep going until whenever.
Let's talk about God of War. So in terms of God of
Yeah.
War, I should also say that we're probably going to be a little bit spoilerish, right?
Oh yeah. Well,
So if you
I
guys don't
mean,
want
it's
to
been
get
out for like a month and a half. I think like you should.
yeah.
That window is closed.
But actually, now that I think about it, I've released the full playthrough of God of War on my channel. So by now, probably most people have seen all there is to see about the single player of God of War to begin with. But it is going to be a bit of a spoilerish discussion, so you might want to fast forward 10 minutes or so if you do not want to get spoiled
And
by
we're
God
gonna
of
go for
War.
20 minutes, and then all of a sudden it's gonna be like, what? And then you're like, oh, they ruined it just when I turned. And that's when you find out Kratos is a woman, and I'm like, no. And then like,
Kratos. Oh my God, that's so bad. That's terrible.
I'm like, how was that even possible? He has his shirt off for most of the game.
Mark Simon would kill me if I was to take part in this conversation, which I will. But, yeah. So about God of War Ascension, I think that we both want to talk about the fact that it was a little bit underwhelming when you take into consideration all of the other God of Wars that came before it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like, look, here was the thing that bugged me and everyone. Like, the first 2-3 hours of the game, there's like one moment where there's like a cutscene and there's like actual dialogue, and like the next like 2-3 hours is just this like it's you just go through it's just constantly just fighting enemies in a room and going on to the next. It's like rinse, repeat, and continue. And it was like it felt like relentless. Like the first 2 or 3 hours of that game are pretty relentless. It's just like fighting, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great fighting engine. It's a great gameplay mechanic. But like, I got a hand. I mean, like that is just insanely like that is just not how. That is not what made God of War interesting. What made God of War interesting was, I mean, maybe you could get away with that in the PS2 era, but like now it's like you really have to do more. You have to like okay, you're already going to have to do a lot to try and get me back into Kratos's like pre-story, because like I don't really care. Like I call it God of War Reach, because like I feel like every company is doing this right now. It's like they're like, we don't do Halo 4 right away. We'll do Halo Reach, and it's the same thing with like Gears of War. They did
Yeah,
Gears of War Judgment.
that's something I was talking about with a friend of mine. It's like, look, dude, a couple of years ago, it was like the age of the sequels. It's like, oh, we're gonna do this game
Now
number
it's the age
three,
of the prequel.
and now it's the age of the prequels because every single game that's coming out, it's like a prequel. Like for instance, you got DMC, sure, it's a reboot, all that stuff, but it's supposed to be a prequel at the end of it. It's
Right.
supposed to be the very start of everything. Then you got God of War, which is God of War Ascension. Again, it's another prequel. Then you, like you said, Gears of War, which is something that I don't even play, but it's also
Yeah.
another prequel. And there's
Yeah.
a whole bunch of more examples like that. There's prequels just pumping out
And
left
by
and
the
right.
way, like we've pretty much fleshed out everything there is to know about Kratos at this point. Like there have been two games that came out for the PSP that basically really, really well established like why he's mad and all these things. Like the guy, it's just like there's not a whole lot left that we weren't aware of, and they were like, well, what about this moment when he went to the library and got really unhappy? And they're like, and they're like, and they're like, yeah, I didn't know about that. And they're like, well, we're gonna flesh that out. Like they were doing this joke about the Hobbit being so long on SNL, and they did like the 18-part series that includes all the extras that didn't make the final cut of the movie, and it was just like that one part where Gandalf can't remember that one elf's name, and like it was just like that's what I feel like God of War Ascension. I just felt like I think more than anything else, the story was so superfluous. It was just there was nothing there that like anyone was really interested in. And so you really have to win me over to get me fascinated about Kratos this time around, because I pretty much got the story. Like unless we're moving on to a new pantheon of gods or something, like which is what everyone was hoping for. They're like, yeah, now he's going to fight the Viking gods or something. And he's like, no, he's still fighting other things in Greek mythology. They're
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
yeah,
the
just like scraping the bottom of the barrel of Greek mythology. Like, what else do we have? They're like, Hepatoncheires? Okay, we'll use that. That's a thing, right?
yeah,
like,
but the thing about it is that I mean I usually have a harder time getting interested in prequels over sequels. It's just something like for instance, even in Dark Souls 2, a lot of people are like, oh, it's gonna be a prequel, it's gonna be a prequel because there's a lot of things pointing to the fact that it's a prequel, and I'm like the only person that said, I hope it's a sequel because I really don't want to do a prequel because I mean it's I've already done what comes after it. I kind of don't have as much interest if it's a prequel.
And that's
And
it, isn't it? I mean, like if we just finished like an epic story with like, and I thought the first three God of War games, like the main ones that were on the PlayStation and PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, I thought it was a great thing. I thought that the third one was basically just an extension of God of War 2, but other than that, I thought it was really, really
I
well
only
done.
played the third one before this one, by the way.
Oh, you've only played the third one?
Oh yeah,
Well, then you missed a lot, my friend,
but
because it's God
but
of War 1.
I own all of them. Like I bought the HD collections. I have the PSP collection, and I have the first and the second one. I bought all of them. I will eventually play them for sure, but it's just I haven't played them yet.
Sure you will. No,
I
yeah,
will.
I will. I played the first one twice. That's actually another game that I've played multiple times. I played God of War 3 all the way through to completion, probably like maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. Um, because it's just a great game. It's just super digestible. It's really easy to just play through, and it's a very quick 7 8 hours, however long it takes you to get through it. Um, it's a really enjoyable way to like just it's you can do it in 2 or 3 days and like without like missing work and school and and it's super easy to do and it's just fun and I enjoyed it. But yeah, so but yeah, with Ascension, I would say though that was my main thing concern was like the first 3 or 4 hours. Then it goes through it, and then you meet with these people who I'm like not 100% sure. Like I don't like it just felt like so additive, like that to the point where like it didn't seem like there was any real reason why. Like they're like, well, this is why Kratos got a little bit more angry, and I'm like, really, that was a thing? Like
It's
this.
the main problems I had with it for starters is something that really kind of took me off the game, which is the whole thing of okay, so now we're talking about the current state of Kratos, where he is at the Hecatonchires and he's beating up the Furies and all that stuff. And then it's like, but now 2 weeks earlier, this is what was happening. He was in the
Oh, wait, you
village.
didn't like that? I actually like that.
Oh my God. No, the problem is I would have liked it if they had done it once. Like, okay, so 2 weeks earlier, this happened, and now fast forward back to the future again. Done. If that was it, that would be
They
good. The
Tarantino'd
problem,
it.
what?
They
No, they
Tarantino'd it.
didn't. I'm a great fan of Tarantino. That was not Tarantino because then it's like, okay, so now you're in the future again. And I'm like, okay, so we're back at the good spot. Okay, so boom, 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 keep on killing stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, so now a week before, and I was like, what the hell are you talking about? A week
Yeah,
before.
they switched it up a lot. But here's the thing, like I don't know. I personally like I got a kick out of I like that they did that. I like that it went all over the place. And I thought it was clever, I thought.
I didn't like that I had to fight the same Fury like 3 times or something. And I'm like, I already killed you in the first hour of
Well, I would
gameplay.
say this, boss battles, other than what's the dude, Pollux and Caster? That was a fun
Yeah.
one. He was fun.
I hated the start of that fight.
The what?
The start, because of the camera angles, I failed like
Yeah,
three
that was
three or
so
four
that
times.
so that was a big deal I had with the beginning of well, not the beginning, the whole thing of God of War Ascension was, yeah, they did these like, so God of War obviously has become really well known for doing these like really cool
Quick time
camera angles where they
events.
like pull out and they're like, you're on the back of a giant whale, and you're like, oh, neat. But like they did it to the point of I feel like they're getting like too into that right now, and it
Yeah,
got or like they're like, yeah, see where you're like you're on the back of a giant snake. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, but now I can't see where I am. They're like, you're just like a speck of dust on that snake. That's how big this. Like we nostril fucked the PS3's graphics engine, and now look at how amazing, look at how small you are. And I'm like,
I actually
hey,
saw
but
the making of. I saw the making of that scene in the snakes. And there's a scene where the guy shows you like a specific point in the snakes, and he's like, and look here, I'm gonna zoom out just a little bit. Boom, he crashes the console. Like,
yeah,
it is literally at the limit. If you zoom out just a little bit more, it's over.
yeah. And I'm like, but the thing is then like, don't do that. Like that's the thing, because like I can't see a tiny like it's like, yeah, this is a great novel idea, a game where you play as a pixel, and I'm like, that's a terrible idea for a video game because now I can't see where I am or what I'm doing or anything, and that's
and
stupid.
and that's the thing. I started playing the game on hard difficulty, which is
Oh,
something that I knew I would probably regret,
you, yeah.
and I did regret it. I ended up going back, and here's something that's really dumb. Why can't I like lower the difficulty? You can't. You have to start over. You knew
Oh, and
that?
by the way, speaking of, here's another new thing that they're doing with all video games, and it was in God of War 3, God of War Ascension, that I'm not super thrilled with. The lack of the ability to manually save your game. It's like, yeah, we'll decide when you can save. Like,
I actually like that.
you like that? I hate
Oh,
that.
I
I don't
love it.
like that like my consoles become a fascist regime in terms of like deciding what's best for me when it's time to save. It's like, well, we'll save now. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to like cuz here's the thing, like with the PS with God of War 3, I would like save at areas that I'm like, "Oh, I really like this part." And like, yeah, I get that you can do a chapter search and like you can go back and do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But
but it won't take you exactly to where
it
you
won't
were.
take you exactly. And like, just let me like, I don't understand. Why don't you let me just manually save the game? Like, why can't I do
The
that?
thing that I'll tell you why, because it makes the game easier. Like you know one of the things I love about Dark Souls,
Easier. What's
there's
that?
no reloads. There's
Yeah,
no
that's one of the things I hate.
I like
This is like,
that
I know, like this is where you and me stands on like opposite sides of the fence on this one. Like, here's the
completely.
deal. Like, I don't like. I think games are meant to be played through and enjoyed. And yes, like the challenging types of games that I like are ones that are competitive. Like we talked about fighting games. Like to
Yeah.
me, that's enjoyable because at the end of the day, if I really want to like experience the story of Injustice or Mortal Kombat, it's super easy to do it. But like because like I can just turn the difficulty way down and just grind through it like it's nobody's business. But the other stuff like doing yeah, but like well like you're playing like a single player game and like you die and then like I was telling you about this with with Demon Souls. This is when I like threw my controller because like basically I kept trying to kill the guy with like the who was it, the giant knight where you have to kill him in the heel,
Yeah.
and I was like getting really, really good at it. I was getting really close, and then he was just like, and I'd like die. Then I'm like, great, and then like I would keep, I had to keep running. Like I couldn't be like, well, this isn't working out for me. Now I have to like end my game. No, now I have to like run back over there, get my souls that I worked for 3 hours to get. So it's like basically like I'm just running around like trying to protect this 3 hours of gameplay. I spent an hour protecting 3 hours of gameplay I had previously, like just running back over there. I can't like quit and be like, I'll come back to that guy when I'm stronger. No, now
Just
I have
wait a
to start.
second. You
Yeah,
do know that you could have quit the game and your souls would still be there.
but they would no because if you die twice though,
Yeah, if you die twice, but if you quit the game and then you come back like 2 hours later, the souls of you dying to Tower Knight would still be there. You just
yeah,
have
but
to not die.
machine really. All right, I gotta go. I had to make this happen. So like I had to get over there and get my souls. Because here's the deal, like I don't want to come back and get them later. It's still going to be just as difficult then as it is right now. It's not like the reason it was difficult was because of the time of day. Like it was, it wasn't like, well, it's Thursday and it's 12, so no. But it was like it was because it was really hard. And so I kept trying to run back over there and get him, and then he just finally like killed me twice. And then I was like, there was like 5 hours of gameplay and I was like 4 hours of gameplay. It's like it didn't even exist. It's like I basically just played a game and nothing happened for like. It's basically the same thing would have happened is if I would have put Demon Souls in my console and just stared at the startup menu for 4 hours. That was the exact same thing would have happened. And that to me is not like the epitome of challenge and a good game design. That is not how you make a good game. You don't just sit around like it's like, yeah, you played for 5 hours, but fuck that. That's not good. That's not okay.
I'm
Like,
sorry, I can't help it.
like it's just crappy. Like I just like basically like, sitting there. I'm like, and then like they're like, yeah, because we make challenging games. I'm like, no, you just make stupid games. That's stupid. That's a stupid thing to do, and you're stupid for saying that.
Okay, wait. Let me tell you, the thing you learned is that basically you learned that you needed to be more experienced in order to go kill him. So it's not like nothing happened. In those 4 hours, you learned
So I learned
something.
life lesson. Is that what the game taught me? He's like, hey, Aaron, see now you understand in life. sometimes you need to be more experienced. I'm like, thank you, video game. Now can I have my 5 hours of life back? And they're like, no.
Oh my god, it's funny that you're saying that because today I actually recorded some Dark Souls and like I probably died, I don't know, about 30 times easy.
Yeah.
So it's just
Well,
to
whatever.
me
You
that
used to it.
doesn't
You
even
like it.
affect me
Everybody-
anymore.
like, I know. It's like it's literally the video game equivalent, like I was saying, of sadomasochism. Like that is the game. Like that is basically it's like it's the hurt me more of video games. There should be a
Oh,
safe word, is all I'm saying in Dark Souls or Demon Souls. That's all I'm saying. Like if I go like Gestapo, then they're like, all right, here's your souls back. Like that should be the thing. And then I'll be like, okay, thank you for that.
no, no. You need to take the punishment like everyone else. But
No, you need to take the punishment like everyone else.
I'm telling you,
He says to me, dressed in a gimp suit, he's like,
but seriously though, I'll eventually help you out through Dark Souls.
okay, good.
You have it on the Xbox 360 or the PS3?
I'll probably get it on the PS3. I'm
Okay.
my Xbox is kind of right now. I have no joke, maybe 100 and some games on my Xbox, so it's time to like give the hard drive a rest. So I've been migrating a lot of stuff over to PS3.
But yeah, if you do get it on PS3, I'll help you out, and you'll see it's not that hard. But going back into the whole God of War thing, basically we're going to be disagreeing on the fact of the save games. Now, here's the thing: the problem with the fact that some companies don't allow you to save your game is that if they don't do proper checkpoints. Like I know that a lot of players complained about a specific section in God of War, which was the Trial of Archimedes. Because like, what do you mean it doesn't have a checkpoint after the first one? Oh my god! And
that took me about maybe 10, 12 tries to get through that.
Wow, really?
Okay, you're better than me. All right, what do you want?
No, it's not because of that. Because I failed like maybe two or three times or something. I just did not. I just did not
you're
think.
A better person. What do you want to hear?
No, that's not where I'm going with it. I'm just saying I did not think it was that hard.
You didn't think it was that hard. Oh, I had an issue. Well, I had to learn like, okay, so up until that point, I didn't really understand the dynamics of like, well, the way I beat it was, and I got better at this, was that to me, combat was tricky because doing the reversals, or what's that thing where he clashes his blades to get the parries. Okay, so the parries in the game are actually extremely difficult, I thought, or much more difficult than they were for, because they require 2 button presses as opposed to 1 in God of War 3. But so that was kind of a problem. And then I realized what I needed to do to get past that level was so some of those characters gave you magic. So I would just spam all my spells all the time with the Medusa snake ladies, and then I would get like through that area, and then go to the next one. And then there was clearly like a way to do it that was easier. Like you could just fight and like get through it, but this was like there was a way that it was designed in a way, and it just took me maybe a couple like maybe a dozen times to kind of figure out what that way was. Like this guy gives you life, this guy does this. If you kill this guy this way, it'd still give you extra magic. You can just spam spells, and then you can get through that way. So like there is like if I were to do it now, I'd probably be able to do it quicker.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the combat in God of War Ascension, I thought, anyways, and here's the thing: I never really played any of the other Gods of War on hard, but I just thought that if you play God of War Ascension on hard, and I even Googled some of it to see how people were doing it, because I'm noticing a pattern, which is, look, if I just stay away and only use heavy attacks, yeah, I can get through everything. It's not really a problem. It's just like, look, dodge, heavy attack, go in, heavy attack, and it's like, it's okay, I can do it, but it's not fun. You know what I mean? It's like there's the thing where it's hard and fun, and then there's the thing where it's just hard and there's absolutely no fun in it. Like I killed one of the bosses because it was annoying the crap out of me that I died a whole bunch of times on him. This was the boss where I decided I was going to switch to normal. It was I think it's called a manticore. They call it a manticore. The thing on top of the snake
that
structure.
Thing is just, I know what you're talking about. It's like a lion and a whatever.
Yeah, so
and like a spiked tail. Yeah,
that was the boss. That was the boss that I decided I want to switch back to normal because I killed it on hard, but it was like not fun at all. I would go up to him, heavy attack, run away, go up to him, heavy attack, repeat until he's dead. That's all I did. And it was pretty easy. but it's like it's not fun at all. So I that's why I switched to normal and I went back to combos and whatnot. But then when I got to that part of the Trial of Archimedes, I already knew it was going to be hard, so I switched back to that other gameplay style of just playing it safe and not doing a lot of combos and whatnot, and using magic like you said yourself, because you can spam magic pretty much down there on the first section of it. And I got through it that way. But it's like again, it wasn't really hard. It just wasn't very fun.
Hmm.
And in fact, I even got a glitch there, which I got glitches all over the game, which is another thing that really kind of ticked me off because
Oh, I didn't get that, but
God of War games have a high quality standard, I feel, at least from what I saw in God of War 3, which was amazing. It was a flawless experience, and I loved it. And in God of War Ascension, I got all kinds of weird glitches. Like during my second try on Trial of Archimedes, one of the gargoyles went off screen. So the thing did not progress. So I
oh,
stayed there for like, I don't know, 15 minutes or something, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And eventually, through glitching myself as well by using Hades. The Hades thing with the arm, like at the end of the combo, an arm spawns off and smacks something in the distance.
yeah, yeah.
So I used that to clip through the wall and smack the gargoyle.
Yeah, see, I didn't have so much. That's really funny, by the way. But I didn't have the glitches. Like I didn't. I don't know. I didn't go through that. But then again, you probably play whatever. You're playing like at a higher level than me. Like I was like, I'm just like push this button till I win. Like the way like you play fighting games is probably the way I play God of War. But like if I keep hitting these buttons, eventually win. Um, but yeah, no, I don't know. But I to me, I also felt like the combat, like they ramped up the difficulty, I thought, substantially. Did you get that or no?
I don't know because again, the only thing I really have to compare it
Just
to is
the
God of War
challenges
Three.
I'm ruining it. No,
No,
what's that?
but I do have to admit though that I wish there was an in between option between normal and hard because somewhere in the way of normal, like stuff when I start really upgrading the stuff that I was using, it
Mhm.
became really easy. Like it got to a point where I could just abuse pretty much everyone. Like I think I killed the final boss in 2 tries or something, and one of the first try I lost because I missed a quick time event. I missed one quick time event. It's like you're dead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's funny too because I know that like. So, what do you think about QuickTime events too? By the way, because I was thinking about like, um, are
I
are
like
we
the way
done with
they do
QuickTime
it.
events now, or is this? I don't know. Like, I feel like here's the deal. Like, they actually have these little moments in Injustice where like in between a fight, you'll go do this like miniaturized, like they do like a little mini game,
The
and like
wager system,
and
isn't
God of
it?
War did that too. What?
The wager system.
No, 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 not the wager system. Like in the story mode, you'll
Ah,
like,
in the
and then
story mode. Okay.
in the story mode, you'll like be fighting, and then all of a sudden, like it'll be like you'll get into this like clash battle against like, and some of them are just clearly like quick time events. Some of them are like actually cool. They're like little mini games that you play. Like with Green Arrow, there's a moment where like Grundy's running at you and he's tossing all this like furniture from Bruce Wayne's house like at you, and you have to like, and it changes the entire game, and then you go into this like cool thing where you're like firing arrows and like trying to shoot all the and it becomes like one of those games where what are those, like almost like a flash gun type game, the ones where like Duck Hunt almost in a way, but like but like basically you're just firing stuff and it just changes the entire pace. Like to me, that as a game is way more enjoyable than like push all these buttons and then not really, and then them and the buttons not necessarily having any sort of intrinsic value to them other than if you push these buttons equals win.
Yeah, sometimes I actually thought that some of the buttons had value to them because, like, for instance, there's a couple of occasions where, like, press cross, and cross is the jumping button, and he would do a jumping related animation. Press
Mhm.
square, and square is the beat up button, and he would do some kind of beat up animation. And press triangle, and triangle would usually be a finisher. So
Yeah.
when it respected this kind of stuff, I was like, okay, so this is cool. But there was a lot of times where it was just like, press this button, and like I would press X and he would just beat someone's face off, and I was like, why? Why was
Yeah,
it
like if you're
X
not gonna
there?
have, like if it's just push like because it's not because then it's just a rhythm game. It's just like you push the
Yeah,
buttons, say, and they're
but
like
here's
okay,
the thing: I really like the cinematic presentation of what they do because
absolutely.
there's no other way to do that stuff. Like, how are you going to control Kratos climbing on top of a Cyclops and cutting off his own neck? Although I have to say
I
something,
do think you can do that with. I mean, like I know we're not there yet, but I think that like I mean, well, Dragon's Dogma is a terrific example of that.
I look.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it could be done better, but you can clearly see how it could be implemented to look cool.
Yeah, I'll give you that much. Dragon's Dogma definitely has a lot of cool stuff, but Dragon's Dogma also steals a lot of stuff from Shadow of the Colossus.
Well, of course. I mean, but like that's well, I mean that's like people say, oh, you're this, Family Guy. It's how they rip off The Simpsons. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, well, everybody does. They have like 500 episodes of The Simpsons or 600 episodes. So at some point, you're gonna have to take something from The Simpsons.
but
Like, there's nothing else to talk about in the world.
I would actually like there to be more stuff to the climbing of Dragon's Dogma. That's why I'm saying
Yes.
I would like there to be more because I mean, pretty much the only interest you have in climbing up a monster is if you're a melee character. If you're an archer,
Mhm.
you just ignore that thing completely. All you do is you just shoot the crap
Well,
out of it.
maybe like
Unless
as an archer, they should have a way where like you're climbing up like a mountain or doing something else. Like I feel like there's other ways to implement cool things that are non-combat related for your character to do, especially considering that the game is just so in depth. Plus, I always felt like that's a game that I'm usually don't say this, but Dragon's Dogma to me seems like a game that is just ripe for multiplayer. Like I would love to have another person in there
dude,
and
it like that's the thing I said on the first attempt I did of making a playthrough of that game it was that basically I don't understand. Like from the first time I saw Dragon's Dogma, I was talking with friends of mine, people that play Dark Souls with me, like, dude, we're totally gonna co-op the hell out of this game. It's gonna be amazing because the very first ones they did not say was a single player only game. The very first videos that came out. And we were looking at that and like the guy climbing up a griffin is like, oh yeah, I'm going to be climbing up the griffin. You're going to be shooting it from below. It's going to be amazing. And then it's like, no,
yeah.
it's all just computer NPCs. And I'm
Is that like a
why?
technical is that like a technical problem they're running into or what? Because like it seems to me like that game of any game that's out there is like just begging to be having another play, especially considering
it can't be a technical problem
it can't be, right?
due to the simple fact that I mean, look at it. It's Capcom. What have they done? Lost Planet 2, amazing co-op. I'm not sure if you like Lost Planet 2. I know that a lot of people didn't like it.
A lot of people. I only played Lost Planet. I think I have Lost Planet 1, but Lost Planet 2 I didn't get into just because. Yeah, it got like really bad press.
That's the thing, though. It got really bad press because people came from Lost Planet 1 and they were like, oh, we're going to get this story thing. And the thing is, there's still a great story in Lost Planet 2, in my opinion. The problem is that the whole gameplay is surrounding co-op.
Okay. So, sorry, I'm just gonna grab a drink. I'm refueling, but basically. I don't know. I mean, yeah, that was a thing that like I think when you force people to do that, it becomes problem. Like remember, like I don't know if that's the reason why Resident Evil 6 was terrible, but like Capcom has been trying this thing where like it's co-op, that's the thing, and I think maybe
and then they have this one game where they don't do it, and it doesn't make any sense.
Dragon's Dogma, I didn't get that either. And by the way, I think we're all in agreement that deep down is Dragon's Dogma, right? Or is that just me?
Pretty much. I mean, I think I even saw press about that already because people just thought that, oh, it has double D's. It's probably just another version of Dragon's Dogma, whatever. And
that's what I was. So I was thinking that too because I was like, yeah, deep down Dragon Dogma, get it, DD, and I was like, and plus it just looks very Dragon-y. So I was like, yeah, that's got to be right. Even though it's all, but like I think those are. And then they're going to wow everyone at E3 this year and be like, and that was, and they'll be like, yeah, that wasn't a cinematic. That's what the game looks like. And everyone's gonna be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Thank you, PS3, PS4, whatever.
But
you're so special.
I don't even know how we managed to segue into cooperative play from God of War. Oh yeah, it was because we were talking about climbing stuff on God of War. We were talking about QuickTime events.
Yeah.
Well, I like the way they do QuickTime events. I mean, I would like there to be more interaction, but I don't mind it either. But however, I wanted to mention something in specific, which is
sure.
You know the part in Hecatoncheires where he slashes the neck off one of the hands. Mm-hmm. That particular QuickTime event, if you fail the last QuickTime event on that, nothing happens. He just keeps on going like nobody's business.
Really?
Yeah. Like I think once or twice I just failed that thing, and I was like, wait a second. He just kept going. He just sliced the neck off anyways.
Shoot, here's Here's the oh, you mean like you don't do the ending part? He still slices the neck off, and the dude's like, yeah, it's cool. Um, I mean, that just goes in the whole. That just go throw that in the gaming logic pile. There's so many of those. Like that's the same thing as like in Injustice, like when you fight on a watchtower, which is like the space station that's orbiting the Earth. Like Aquaman's special is that he like raises the ocean and like attacks you with a shark. So I'm like, where is he getting the ocean water from in the watchtower, which is like orbiting the Earth? Like he just raises water. Like, is there something
You see,
really funny if they like just focus back? They
you
focus
see,
back on like they see a beach and some dude's just like what? And like all the water like leaves the Earth.
no, you
Like
see,
just
this is where they need the God of War Ascension technology, where they just zoom out until it's a speck of dust, and you just see this big like tube of water going up into the space station, and there's a shark in it. Like, what the fuck?
exactly. See, that's well, that everything should just have that technology. Actually, everything shouldn't. That's we can draw
Yeah.
the line at that. I don't. I mean, I get it. You guys at Sony Santa Monica, you are doing a fantastic job, and it looks incredible. But it's also, yeah, again, it's
From a
unplayable when I
gameplay
can only see
from a
from a
gameplay
gameplay standpoint.
standpoint, yeah, it's really bad. And when I was playing on hard, even there's a section in Hackatonkeries right at the start where again it just zooms you out all the way back, and I'm like, yeah, I know it looks really cool and everything, but I can't really fight in hard mode like this. I can't see my character.
Question,
I can't see where the other guys are.
I was going to ask you about multiplayer for God of War Ascension. Did you like it? I loved
I
it.
loved it. I thought it
Yeah,
was amazing, and I feel that is the main reason why the game exists.
you know, it's so weird because
Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
people have been trash talking the multiplayer, and I think the multiplayer is really fun. You know what it reminds me of? It's like a super advanced version of Power Stone. Do you ever play the game Power Stone?
No.
It was a Dreamcast game. There was a game called Power Stone and Power Stone 2. And Power Stone 2 was amazing because it was the same kind of idea. It was like these shifting arenas, and it was 4 people, not 8. But you'd go to fight each other, and it was just about killing each other. There was no other objective to do. Like there was no like stabbing a Cyclops in the eye or anything like that. But it was a lot of fun, and that's just totally what it takes me back to. And it's a cool just brawl fest. It's that, or it's like Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers is another example of what it was, and that's what it feels like. And it was really, really fun, and it was played it. I think I tried it. Like I'm like, yeah, I'll give this a whirl, and I ended up playing it for like I think 2-3 hours. It was like a lot of fun.
I played over like 72 hours before I made my one video that was a guide to the multiplayer thing. It's not really a guide. It's more like a basics, kind of telling people the very basics of that particular multiplayer. But
Yeah,
the thing that I wanted to say before we get into the multiplayer itself is that I did that interview with Jason McDonald, and it was
right.
funny because one of the questions related to how they came up with the idea to God of War Ascension, and he probably had done so many interviews that this just kind of blurted out of him. And what he said was something in the lines of, "Well, we had just finished God of War 3, and we were sitting around the office just kind of figuring out what we are going to do next. So we started up this thing where we started playing multiplayer with God of War, and it's like this is the first thing he told me when I asked him about the origin of God of War Ascension. It's like most of the times when you ask them about the origin of God of War Ascension, they were supposed to tell you, oh, there was this story to tell. It's like he told me about multiplayer, you know. So I think the main reason for God of War Ascension existing is more multiplayer than anything else, and that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. I think it's a really great thing, and I'm actually more pissed that people were trashing it so much. Like, I mean, not everyone. Some people really liked it. I loved it. I personally thought it was great. People were like, "Oh, talking with some of my coworkers, they were telling me, "Oh yeah, but the problem is like it's just so difficult. Like you can't win." I'm like, I was winning. Like I'm not to brag. Like I'm not that great at God of War, but like I was doing fine. Like I think all my like I was getting between like I'm like second and third place pretty regularly, and the kill streak and all that kind of stuff. Like it was a lot of fun to me. I don't know. Maybe I just picked it up better because I was into it or whatever it was. But yeah, I thought it was really well done. I thought it was real. I love how you level your character up. I love how you can like choose one of the 4 gods and then like grow him in that particular thing. I love all the different armor unlocks, all the abilities you get, and I feel it's really cool. And I'm curious a little bit about balancing. I don't know how balanced it is. It's not like I've really tinkered on that level, but either way, it doesn't matter because it's just a blast. Like I got in there and I was doing really well, and that was great. And I understood the dynamics and the fundamentals of it, and it was super easy to understand. And I think it was a really really cool addition. I hope they continue to do that for all the because I think that's a really fun thing. I think that's multiplayer done right. I think if they would have just been like a deathmatch mode and nothing else, I would have been pissed.
Yeah, but they did a lot of cool stuff. I even like the co-op stuff. I'm not sure if you've done the co-op stuff. It's also a lot of fun. The Trial of the Gods, really liked it as well. But the main complaint I had, and I had that complaint since the beta because I played the early beta because of PlayStation Plus. The complaint I had back then is that I felt swords were a little bit overpowered because they're a little bit
You did,
spammy.
okay.
And like for instance, I've had several situations in the game itself while I was playing multiplayer where it's like two guys come at me with hammers, I'll be able to beat them, both of them, 2-on-1. Two guys come at me with swords, forget about it. I will never
Yeah, but
win.
you played the game on hard and didn't even have that hard of a time with the trial of Archimedes. So they're dealing with a champ here.
No, that's not like that at all. I think the game is actually really cool. I think it's pretty balanced. Apart, I will always complain about swords because it just seems to me I get that feeling. I'm not saying that they're imbalanced, but that's a feeling I get.
There we go. We can hashtag that. I will just always complain about swords. I hate them. But no, it was I don't know. I thought it was I haven't seen that too much, but you're right about the swords thing.
Yeah. So in regards to God of War, I think overall the experience is still positive, even though the story is a little bit lackluster. I think it's still fun. I just think that the pacing is a little bit all over the place sometimes. Do you get that feeling as well? Like it's like there's this big action scene.
That's exactly what I was saying about the beginning of the game. Is it starts off and it's just this really like just laborious. It feels almost laborious to the point where you're just like you're just grinding, killing a bunch of guys, doing very simple puzzles. It really picks up. I think you can agree that the latter half of the game feels much more dynamic than the first half.
Oh yeah, definitely. And because, like I told you, I didn't like the fact that it's like now we're in the future, now we're in the past, now we're in the future again, and now we're in the past again. And I did not like
that. I thought that was cool. I liked that because it was like because even though they did that, you still didn't know what was going to happen kind of some of the times. I mean,
that's the problem. I still didn't know what was going on. I'm like, why is this happening?
No, not what was going on. You didn't know what was going to happen is different. Like, because I knew what was going on. I figured it out. But like, yeah, me, I'm smart. But like, I still thought that but I thought that I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was an interesting way to tell the story. My issue was I didn't think the story was that interesting to begin with. I thought that they did it. It was cleverly told, and it was a cool thing, especially since like you see the one Fury has like the one arm, and like it kind of goes in like he cuts it off later on in the game in like a backstory and you're like that's cool. And the continuity of everything was pretty spot on. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean it's still a good title. I just want to make sure that that people listening to this podcast understand that at the end of it, we both came out with a positive experience because we've been pretty much just bashing the game to death at this point.
Are we bashing the game to death? I don't feel like. Well, I'm just talking about things I didn't like. So yeah, I guess technically
we bashed it for a while.
Yeah, take that. Greatest bashing.
It's really bad for me. Like the two developers of the interview, that the only interview I've ever done in my entire YouTube career, and I'm like bashing the game of the two developers that gave me the interview.
You're like, you know what you did wrong? Like,
Let me tell you guys everything that's wrong with your game.
But you know what's interesting? Because I thought that also, I really wish they would get back to doing more weapons with God of War. I don't know what that. I don't like. They just had like the multi. I mean, I think it was cool that they did that thing where you get like the ice, the fire, the lightning, and the Hades. But like,
my audience was pretty pissed off with something that I did, which is basically they put a shield in there, and you could shield slam. And I have to say, because I'm a fanatic about shield slam too. Just in case you don't know, I love shield slamming in games.
Gotcha.
And it's very rare that there's a game that has a good shield slam. And God of War had amazing shield slams.
Yeah.
So every time I would pick up a shield, I'm like, okay, I'm not picking up any other weapon. Forget about it. It's all about the shield now.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny actually though, is that when I think about it, I don't think I actually ended up using most of the pickup weapons.
I would love the shield and the mace. The mace is pretty cool. Like you'll just beat people up with that mace.
Yeah, I was like more like hold on a second. I was more I definitely felt like yeah, like I didn't end up like once I realized I'm like, oh yeah, I have these things. And then it was like it was weird too because like well, isn't there like an item you get later on in the game like it's one of the I think it's like one of the solutions for one of the puzzles, but like it comes in so oh never mind, I'm thinking of something
The
else.
thing that
But
clones you?
no, 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 no.
Okay.
I was thinking actually there was you know what, I'm getting two games confused. I was thinking of Devil May Cry for some reason. But because there's a thing that you get like to in order to beat the last boss in Devil May Cry, that's what I was thinking of. There's this ability that you have to use, but because they give it to you so late in the game, you don't even remember that most people
Oh, I
have it.
remember that. I remember that section
You know
in
what I'm
Devil
talking
May
about?
Cry. I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't want to spoil it for people, but let me just tell you, I've lost that last fight. I don't know, probably like 20 or 30 times when I got to
Yeah.
that point because I did not knew what I was going to do. So I was like, I'm obviously doing something wrong. Let me see from someone who did it. So I go to YouTube. Like
Yep, that's
after
what I
30
do.
tries, I was playing on hard, by the way.
You're like, oh my God, that of course that's how you do it. And
Of
then you're just like,
course. So I'm
and
like,
you're
after 30 tries, I'm like, I'm definitely doing something wrong. I can't figure this out. So then I go and it's like, oh, that's what it was. I would never have gotten it. I would
you
just
wouldn't.
kept on going. Nope.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it took me I was in the same boat. Like it took me a really long time. But yeah, no, God of War, but like that's the other thing. Like I wish that they would have given you the abilities in God of War a little bit earlier, I think would have been my thing. That would have been
Yeah,
cooler.
that would have been
But
cool.
yeah, so
And
that's God of
unfortunately, I would have to say that God of War didn't even sell that much. Apparently, that's something that came up recently in some news. I
You know what the
mean,
MPD was on that one?
the what?
What was the MP? What were the sales figures for that?
I don't know, but it was pretty low. Like the I think the figures
It's like a
that they were.
million.
No. I'm talking about like the figures for a specific month, like in March or something. It
Yeah.
was only like a couple thousand. It was really really low. So
Oh, it's so it's sold more than 1,000. You must be talking about maybe like just in Portugal or something.
no. For the
Wait,
month
when
of
did the game get released? The game was released in March.
oh wait no, I'm probably mixing up my month somewhere. But I don't know. I know that the sales figures were really really low, both for God of War and for Gears of War. They both sold really really bad, which is a shame because I mean at the end of the day I still think it's a really good game, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of people didn't think that way. You see, I was just trying to work this in so that we could kind of segue
Yeah,
into the
we
next
can
topic,
segue
but you
into
wrecked it.
the EA, not the Square Enix story,
The
which I
Square
think is also
Enix.
worth noting because that's something that I've been talking about for a long time.
So go ahead, get us
And
started on that.
like I will get you guys I will get everyone started. So essentially for people who aren't aware, there was a just a report back. I think it was in like Gama Sutra or Games Industry Bid.biz or
It's
what it
also
was in IGN.
important
It
to
was something
say
like that. Basically, the story what that came out was that apparently Square Enix released its annual sales figures, and they said that all these three games, Tomb Raider, uh, Sleeping Dogs, and Hitman, all three of them underperformed, even though Hitman sold, I think it was almost 3 million, and Tomb Raider sold like 3 million, and Sleeping Dogs sold like 1.5. And I'm sitting there going, I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, this is an issue I think for in the gaming industry. If a game comes out and sells 3 million copies and underperforms, I think I think that we have a big problem, and I think that one of the solutions to that problem may in fact be digital distribution. I think maybe they're spending too much money on distribution, and
I'm not sure
I
if it's just about distribution because I just think that they are putting way too much money into these games. I think that sometimes there's problems in programming because I've took computer science
mhm.
and like I know about a couple of things about programming. And here's the thing: it's not always about throwing money at the problem. Sometimes you need to look at certain solutions and come up with better. Look at certain problems and come up with better, more efficient solutions, as opposed to just throwing more programmers at the problem. And that's what I feel that is happening in a lot of these games. Not just programmers, everything. Like for
Well, it's
instance,
also yeah. Go ahead.
I
Go ahead.
finished Far Cry 3, right? And usually, like in all my videos, I like to make to leave the credits rolling at the end to kind of recognize the team that worked on the game. And for Far Cry 3, I couldn't do that because you know how long the credits are in Far Cry 3? It's 40 minutes of credits.
Is it really?
It's 40 minutes of credits. And it's not like it's scrolling slowly or anything. No, it's scrolling at regular speed. It's just 40 minutes of content in the credit section. So imagine
So
how many
that comes
people are
exactly.
involved.
So, well, one of the main reasons for that is also localization, and also, let's be honest, the credits in games are like a little bit too like they're like, and Jeff was the janitor, and I'm like, okay, well, you don't need to tell me that, but like, I mean, basically anybody who has any connection at any of these companies gets named in the credits, which I think is what's annoying. Because like back in the day, remember like when like movies in like the 60s and 70s came out, and the credits were it's like these are the people that made the movie. Now it's like these are the people who made the movie, and these are all their friends and family, and these are all their Facebook friends, and these are all their Twitter followers, and this is everyone that's involved tangentially. And it's just like that's I think that's endemic to something else. But getting to your point, I think that yes, games. Well, first of all, it's not just programming. There's a lot of elements. When you're creating these worlds, like for instance, in the original Bioshock, um, they hired a separate team of like 20 people that just created the water effects. Because what happens is that sometimes the undertaking, especially when you're creating new dynamics and new effects for just specifically for one game, like we're creating an entirely new mechanic for like maybe it's a physics mechanic, maybe it's a graphics thing, maybe it's like the way ice glistens. It's a whole thing. You have to hire another team that basically develops that technology, and that's what's happening. Games are basically just becoming so massive, but you know, you have a game the size of like let's say Tomb Raider, for example, you're creating this enormous world. That is not something one person does. That's something maybe 30 people do. And then you've got, another 20 people that are like working on, doing this, and then 50 people there and all this. The problem is it's the HD world. It's the complexity and the depth of these games, which a lot of people take for granted. A lot of people say, "Oh, modern games, like yesterday, and games in the past used to be so much longer and have so many other cool things." Like, yeah, because most of it was text based. Most of it was, it wasn't like endemic and created as part of the actual game engine. And now, these games are so complex that they offer you these amenities, and it's really, really, really tricky because you have to have these huge teams of people. And I think that the issue is our games just simply getting too expensive.
I think they definitely are getting too expensive. I think that's just the thing, and part of it is also a result of the whole making games more like Hollywood. Because there's a lot of games these days that just want to have those amazing cutscenes, and I love those cutscenes. Don't get me wrong, I love cutscenes. I love all that stuff. But I mean, sometimes I get the feeling that there's a lot of games that you spend more time actually watching the game rather than playing the game. And sometimes I'm not even exactly
Uncharted.
sure where I stand on that. Exactly. Uncharted, and in this example, Tomb Raider, it's the same thing. Tomb Raider is basically the reason I like this particular Tomb Raider, because I did not like any of the previous iterations of Tomb Raider. I wasn't a fan, but I
Right.
liked this one because it was more like Uncharted. And I
Yeah.
like that. And I don't even know if it's okay for me to like it. You know what I mean? Because I feel that a lot of the time that you spend in Uncharted, it's almost like you're watching a movie. And
Well,
then
that
you
is
play
kind of
whack-a-mole every now and then with the, enemies behind cover. And when I just play a little whack-a-mole, kill people, keep going.
yeah.
And it's fun. It's good fun. I don't want to like tell people off. I mean, I'm definitely going to be buying The Last of Us from Naughty Dog because I think it's going to be amazing.
hmm It
But
looks great. Yeah.
the thing is, at the end of the day, I'm always thinking, do games really need to be that much like Hollywood? For instance, you go to one of my favorite games of all times, Dark Souls. It doesn't have that many cutscenes, and the few cutscenes that you have, it's not like they're these big budget cutscenes. It's just a big monster showing up. That's it. And I have a lot more fun in that game. So I don't know. I don't know if games really need all
Well,
of
I don't
these
know also
cinematic
that
Hollywood
like
things.
I don't know I don't know the financials on Dark Souls and stuff like that either. But to me, what blew me away is that okay, a game sells like what game actually just popped up about this recently that I was thinking about was remember Kingdom, not Kingdom Under Fire. What was the one
Kingdoms of
Kingdom of
Amalur.
yeah, Kingdoms of Amalur. So Kingdoms of Amalur is a great that game got just monotonous after a while, but I will say that like I think a game sold like close to 1 million, and that whole office had to shut down. And I know Kurt Schilling was involved, and like um the American baseball player.
But I actually think that that was a
And
different problem in that particular game because I actually followed up the news on that one a little bit because I was a big fan of that game. I loved that game. I
you
only
love
had
that game.
I loved that game. The problem with that game was that it was too easy. I played it on hard and it wasn't even challenging.
It doesn't. Also, there's not that many variety in the enemies. I'm like, you can't create a game that
Yeah.
big, like have like six enemy types.
No, I
But
think there's more enemy types. I didn't even see any of the big bosses. I had a blast playing that game, and I really liked the fact that there was that class
here,
variety thing.
you want to know something funny? I think I'm about 85 hours into that game, and I am not anywhere near to the story, like getting through the story, because it's like there's
Yeah,
like so many
so many
side stories,
side quests.
and I am like, that game is murder for someone like me because I literally like I have to like I'm like, crap, now I have to do a side quest. Like, and I'm like, I refuse to do it. I'm like, well, I'm going to do like 10 side quests and I'll do one story mission. And they're like, you do 10 and then like 10 more. It's like the Hydra effect. Like,
Yeah,
I
they
literally
keep
cut off
popping.
one head and then like two more grow in its place. Like, I complete one side mission and they're like, now you have all these other side missions. And I'm like, God damn
And
you.
then there's the other
But
thing with the factions where you're like running through the world and you're like, oh, there's a faction over here that has all these other side quests. And should I join this faction or should I join another one? Do I have to make another character to join this faction? You know, you're thinking
uh,
about all that stuff. There's a lot of content in the game, but I think it
you know
suffers from a lack of focus.
Yeah, but anyway, we're getting off topic. I should say,
Yeah.
like, getting back on top of like, yeah. So, but that was a game that sold like I think close to 1 million copies, and that was like, yeah. And then they had to close down the whole studio and all this other stuff. And I don't know. I think there might have been something more about that. I think maybe Kurt Schilling was like, I think maybe he like took more money
No,
in or
no, no. There
something
was
like that.
the big problem I think was is that all of a sudden the guy from Long Island, I don't know, the governor or whatever, I don't know how Long Island works, but apparently there's a guy there who's a special governor whatever, and he went public and said that the game was tanking, that they didn't have basically he said the game was because they were working on an MMO if you remember, and
Hmm.
he basically said the game's never going to come out. It's not going to work, and they need to pay me my money because he got money from that guy, the governor, and then the governor went public and he said that game's never going to come out, and the stocks just dropped, completely tanked,
Yeah.
and basically the studio became worthless, despite the fact they actually apparently, according to what Kurt Schilling says, the game was actually well on its way to be made. It's just the governor did that whole stupid scandal and there
It sounds like a
was
western. The governor was involved. Like
that was
it's like a spaghetti western. Like, well, what does the governor say about all of this? He's in his ranch house. Meanwhile, back at the old church, um, a game is being developed. But but no, I yeah, I don't know. To me though, any game that sells about 1 million copies should not be a failure. Like that's a lot of
yeah.
copies of a game. If 1 million people bought it, so like if a game sells 3 million copies, okay, just think about this for a
Yeah,
second.
let's think
That's
about the Hitman
1%
Absolute.
of the United States population. That means one out of every 100 people in this country owns that game. Okay, just think about that. And then it's like, yeah, it's not enough. Are you kidding me? That's insane. There's 300 million people that live in the United States. So if 1% of 3 million people, 300 million people is not enough for a game to survive, I think that we're starting to see, I think that the industry is collapsing on itself then. I think you're just spending too much money.
There's
And
also
I
another
don't,
problem,
what's that?
inflation, because and this is something that a lot of people threw at my face when I started talking crap about Dead Space 3. But the thing is, at this point in time, let's say, how long have games been $60 for? And I just want to use your metric for it because over here it's even a lot more
Um,
expensive. But games have been
yeah,
60 bucks for how long? Three years? 4 years?
no, longer than that. It's been since the Xbox came out. So that was 6, 7 years, 7 years ago.
So games have been $60 for 7 years. And here's the thing, $60 7 years ago was worth a lot more than it is today.
Well, no, because hold on. Yes and no. But here, I mean, if you want to get into like a huge like economics type discussion, I can get into it. But like I can't speak for the EU, but I can speak for the US. The US, the thing is that production has, yeah, but the problem is inflation doesn't work for us because our wages have stagnated unless you're in the top 1%. So like, even though, yeah, maybe inflation is happening in terms of the value of the dollar, but the problem is that because everyone's still making 30, 40K a year. Like those, like people like that are in the middle class should be making in the United States. If you want it, like the middle class should be a class of people that are making like 70 to like 80 to like $90,000 a year if we're keeping up with inflation. But the fact is that they're not. So because wages have stagnated, people are still like their spending habits aren't adjusting appropriately. But it doesn't matter because if the fact of the matter is that you're selling 3 million copies of something, like, at the end of the day, 3 million copies of a game is a lot of copies of a game. Like, I mean, if the goal was that you had to sell 6 million copies, that's insane. Like, most games don't do that. I mean, you can't say, I think that game companies need to be more realistic.
Yeah,
And I
I
think that
think
they're,
Square Enix grossly overestimated themselves. I mean, because again, like you said, these games sold well. They
they sold
definitely sold
extremely
well.
well. And they got great reviews. They sold 3 million copies. I mean, like, in what universe? Only this time, and like, this is the first I've heard of a game selling that much and not being a success. And I think that part of the problem, and look, it's distribution. I think that that's why a lot of these publishers are switching over and saying, hey man, like we're not, because they don't want to scale back in terms of uh, production value. They want to still be doing these big AAA titles and really blowing stuff up, blowing it up in terms of like making it really expansive and amazing and awesome graphics and really cool stuff. But I think at the same time, I think you spend so much money. It costs a lot of money to create 3 million copies of a game, and the disc, and then create the box and all that kind of stuff, and then shipping, all that stuff. That costs money. That costs a lot of money. I think that if you scale that back by like maybe 50% and everything else goes towards digital distribution, because it doesn't cost anything. The problem is that you have the people like Microsoft and PlayStation, although I've heard Sony's getting better at it, but basically they just charge way too much money for putting stuff on their marketplace. But if they can kind of mitigate that a little bit, but that's for the smaller developers. The big developers, it's a drop in the pan. But for the smaller developers, that's really bad. But like, I think that if you can do the digital and you can do it well, and it looks to me like Xbox and PlayStation have been kind of adopting Steam's model, which is good in the sense that they're starting to do like the weekly sales, and they're trying to push towards digital distribution. And I think that this is something that's going to happen just naturally anyway. But I think that is honestly, I think that's the solution, is switching the distribution models, making it more accessible to people. You're in the PlayStation 4 announced that you can download and play at the same time as it's downloading, which I think is fantastic.
Um, it's hard for me with digital distribution because I'm one of those guys that I like having a box. I
you,
like
you
it.
and my friend Michael, I swear to God, this is crazy though. Like this idea of the box. Like I like having a box. It's
Here's
like
the thing, though. I
this is
won't
like
go crazy
okay,
over it.
Rui, it's the industry or the box. What do you want?
I don't know, man.
Like
I
you
really
really
like my boxes.
I know you do, but you got to be a little bit like, come on, let's try and get,
No, but it's not like I'm the kind of guy that only has boxes. Like I have a lot of digital stuff. And it's like usually the way I buy my games, it's like I'll go the place where it's the cheapest. It's like what? It's cheapest on Steam. I'm getting it on Steam. Is it cheaper on Green Man Gaming? I'm getting it on Green Man Gaming. Do I have to install Uplay instead of Steam? That's fine. I don't give a damn. I do not like because there's also a lot of people that are like
does
these.
not like spending money.
No, it's not that I don't like spending money. It's just that
Yeah.
we are in a crisis.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 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 absolutely. I mean, but like to me, I just think that you're going to cut so much cost by switching over to digital, and then and then I think from the publisher standpoint, I think that's what they want to do. I think the problem, the biggest limit to that, I've been told, and maybe you can kind of speak to this. I've been told that also our bandwidth in the United States is like substantially more is better than in other parts of the world. Like even in
Oh,
like
it is.
it is, right?
It
Okay,
is.
so like, because like I have like 15 megabytes per second. That's my
Upload
bandwidth that
or download?
I upload is pretty. I don't know what it is upload, but it's because I don't do as much uploading. You do more of the uploading.
Yeah.
But it's pretty good. I mean,
The thing is,
it's probably like
if you have
so
15
it's
megabits download, you probably have 1.5 megabit upload, which is actually not that much. And it's funny me telling, oh yeah, the United States has a lot better bandwidth, and I'm like here sitting on 120 megabits.
well. Here's the other thing, though. By the way, is that so basically, oh, the other thing though is that like we here complain like apparently and you can speak to this is that I guess in like in Europe and other parts of the world I've been told that you have a limit like a storage limit or like a megabyte limit in terms of how much
There's a
you
lot of
can
places. There's a lot of places that have it. My specific ISP does not.
okay
Because I
because
mean,
I've been
you've seen the amount of videos I upload. Like I would bust that limit in 2 days, easy.
well yeah so that's what I was wondering because like so now a lot of these places have data like the United States does not have data limits in terms of our ISPs, but like we basically get like almost every ISP is unlimited, which I really hope doesn't change. But I know how greedy these sons of bees are,
Yeah.
so they are like they look for any excuse. They're like no, like there was actually one of the states I think it was like it was like Wyoming or it was something like that, and they basically tried to create their own government uh, internet like that would be basically overriding like all the other ISPs like Time Warner and all these other guys. And it's been in it's been in litigation because they're basically fighting them on this, and they're like, no, you're not going to put that in there. And it's really interesting to me that like I mean, there's a lot the corporations here like have a huge foothold in terms of controlling the market in that regard. So it's kind of scary actually a little bit, but like yeah, because they like it's like, Google. Remember, Google tried to. I don't know if you heard this story, but Google tried to install their own internet in the town that they are at, and basically they got overridden.
They got overridden.
They were basically yeah they got shut down. They like the government was like no you can't do that. They were just gonna like provide it like free internet in that little area where Google is headquarters there, as in like Northern California, and they were like, nope. And I was like, well, really? Like,
Why
so it's kind of
not? That's such a scumbag thing to do. Just like, look, we're gonna give free internet to all these people, free like big bandwidth.
right because they're like, well, you're undercutting all the like ISPs around here and yada yada yada. And then they were like, yeah, like like, but
But
you
we're
can
not
only
selling anything.
yeah, like it was just like I mean it was like in one town. It wasn't like they were gonna do it like it's not like they were like trying to wire the United States or something like that. They were just doing it in one town and be like, yeah, we live here, we'd like to do this. It was a really nice gesture. And instead of saying thank you, they're like, yeah, you go to hell. So it was weird, but yeah, basically it's a very strange thing that I think that they do that, and it kind of bothers me. But yeah, but getting back to the whole thing, I mean, that's part of that's the other. I think those are the biggest detriments I can see though, is in terms of getting bandwidth, the right amount of bandwidth for it to be
Yeah.
something that people not living in the United States can have access to. Which is why I think you should scale down physical distribution by like 50% and then really try to move towards a digital model. But at the same time, the game copies would still be available. It would just be heavily gilded um, towards the digital model, but you would still have the option. I think that that's really the trick. It's just making sure that there's still an option to do that, but because you don't want to cut out all the retailers either. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, because I mean, brick and mortar stores. I don't ever buy anything there, pretty much at this point. Especially because in Portugal, what happens is like, like if you were to buy Tomb Raider, right, for the PlayStation 3 as it came out, it would cost you 70 euros, which actually will go for about, I don't know, I think it's either going to be 80. It's going to be 80 or $85 or something.
Is that what the oh it's not that much it's not as much higher as I thought. I guess British pounds are the most expensive. Like when you charge 60 British pounds, 50 British pounds for like
That's the thing though. In Britain, everything is cheaper.
Is it really cheaper?
Everything is cheaper. Like I'm not even kidding. Like for instance, the Defiance. I bought Defiance. I went to a friend of mine who lives in Britain, and basically I told him, so how much does Defiance cost in your currency? And he goes and checks every single time I buy a game. I go to him first, and I have him check how much it costs in his currency. And in his currency, it's usually like from 5 to 8 euros cheaper every single time. So I'll usually buy it through him. He buys it for me, and then he gives me the Steam key.
Interesting. Yeah, I wish the localization would be better too in terms of like Steam and digital distribution across, internationally. That would be nice.
Yeah.
There's actually a really great, somebody made a really good post on Reddit Gaming, which I know is not generally the case, but um, it was called like Why I Steal Games, and it was literally like it's basically all it was like a comic that this guy wrote about like he's like I want to pay for this game, I want to buy, I want to do all these things. You've made it so difficult for me to do that,
It is.
and
It is definitely the
and it
case.
and that's what's causing this is that like basically this is why we steal games because like we're trying to pay for it, but it's like you put in all this DRM, you put in all these like these cost restrictions, you put all these like these localization restrictions in terms of like region locking, you do all this stuff, you make it so difficult for us to get it. And then if we do buy the game legally, then we have to abide by this crappy DRM, which like forces us to be online and do all this other stuff.
Like, you
and
want
then it's
you
like
want a really current, up to date example right now? Because I can
what's
give you one. Soul
Sim
Sacrifice.
City.
No,
Oh,
Soul Sacrifice. I can't pre-order. I want to pre-order Soul Sacrifice. I really do. I can't. Not a single store in Portugal sells Soul Sacrifice right now. And I mean, we're 8 days away from the launch. And it's like, I want to pre-order this game because I want to have the Japanese voice packs and all that stuff. And it's like, I can't. So in order for me to actually pre-order it, I have to go outside the country. I have to pre-order it from England or some other place. And then
and it's
they'll
just a
send it
huge
over.
inconvenience.
It is. It is because it's going to take like 2 extra weeks to get here. Which is just
It's
ridiculous.
insane to me. Like I just don't get like how these. I don't know. I mean, I'm spoiled because I live in the United States, and
Yeah.
we just like they just they all just like here have more stuff, United States. And I'm like, thank you, I like more stuff, but so, but yeah, I mean, it just I don't know. To me, that like whenever I see those posts too, I'm like, and I'm always flabbergasted because I don't really think about it that way. Like when I always think like very ethnocentrically or not or national centrically, whatever you want to call it, but in terms of like like, yeah, I live in the United States, it's our issue, like so I don't but yeah, the European Union, like I hear people like, especially like Australia's got like a lot of grapes, and justifiably so, especially with their weird like inability to like properly like create content warnings on their games because like they don't believe in such a thing as like a mature title. Like their government apparently they finally got it, but for like the longest time their government just like disavowed the idea that there was such a thing as like an adult game.
Yeah, I remember that there were a lot of problems with people in Australia getting Mortal Kombat, which was just
That was a huge
retarded.
one. And I remember Ed Boon, like I think he tweeted or somebody said something along the lines of um like countries need to be able to treat their citizens like adults. Like it's true. Like, I mean, what the hell, guys? Like, I mean, you can't just say like it's one thing to have, and we're like the opposite side of the spectrum. We're like, blood and guts is like just our way of life here in America. But like, like if like nobody cares about that. We're like really weird whenever like a boob shows up on TV. We like get freaked out, and like a whole bunch of like Christian women's groups like have to go on TV and be like, we're offended. But and then it takes like 2 weeks to die down, and everyone has to apologize for it. But like meanwhile, like dudes like rip their heads off, and everyone's like, good wholesome entertainment. So it's totally the opposite. But I can't imagine living in a country where like they just where they wouldn't allow people to like watch things be like at all. Like I mean, it's like I think it's in some countries. I think it's like. I know Germany has really, really tight restrictions on like violence and things like that, but I understand where they're coming from. But at the same time, like, don't you have to like treat people like adults and be like, okay, this is extremely violent, just FYI. Like, and then they go, okay, thanks for letting me know that. And they're like, yeah, no problem. And then
Yeah,
done.
we just segued into Jesus Christ. I think we segued on top of a segue.
Yeah. Segued on segues. And I'm
Heel
on a
rope.
Segway right now, rolling around. Just no, I'm not. that would be so meta.
That would be the ultimate segue experience.
Exactly. Segwaying on a Segway.
But with all the derailing, I think we should probably start thinking about ending it because I mean it has been 90 minutes, and I'm not even sure that people are going to listen to it this long. We had a whole
Nobody's
bunch. We had a whole bunch of more topics that we wanted to talk about, but we'll probably leave those
three.
for.
Three.
Yeah, we still. I mean,
Got the three was good.
not. I mean, I think it was decent, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's usually what happens on the podcast too. Like, so it's hilarious, but that's okay. I still have thoughts and ideas, and I can talk. So later.
Yeah, we will be doing this more often. If you guys enjoy it, obviously leave us your comments and feedback in the comments section, so that we know what you guys thought about it. What?
No, I don't. I said, and tell us who won. No.
Tell us what? I still can't.
What? I thought it was like make it like it was like the whole thing was a competition, and you didn't realize it.
Tell us who won. You probably won. Jesus Christ! I never seen
won.
so many words per minute, dude.
That's right.
But because there's actually a funny effect that happens, which is whenever you cut out, because every now and then I notice that your connection kind of cuts out, and then Skype kind of skips ahead a little bit, and then like it tries to compensate for it, so it puts you speaking so inhumanly fast that
really?
Yeah, it's like it doesn't sound crazy or anything. It sounds perfectly natural. It's just like inhumanly fast. Like no one can speak that fast. No way.
Basically, Skype is just going like, this guy's fucking crazy. Like we can't even keep up with this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just Skype just has like a question mark. It's like I don't even know. Like this is we never would have anticipated this would happen.
It's like you're breaking our bandwidth with all these words per minute.
They're like we didn't understand that. Like it's like wow. Like we didn't anticipate Aaron on Skype. If we would have known, we would have really done some more R&D.
They need to come up with a new technology to keep up with you, man.
It's like it's Aaron proof. That's gonna be like it's like a merit you can have from now on.
It's definitely gonna be a thing.
Best telecommunications service ever. This thing is Aaron proof. I mean, we're talking top of the line.
Anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed it. Just leave us your feedback, all that kinds of good stuff. And if you guys enjoyed it, we will be doing it more often. Probably not going to do it next week because I've heard that next week is going to be my bachelor party. Because
you've heard that?
No, I heard because it's not like I can be the one organizing my own bachelor party. You know, that wouldn't make sense. So the guy that's going to be my best man at the wedding came to my house today and he's like, look, don't plan anything next Saturday. It's going to be your bachelor party. And I'm like, okay, I guess I don't really have a say in the matter, do I?
So, well, now you got it. What are you going to do? Are you going to do like the typical bachelor party thing? Are you going to go strip clubs and all that good stuff? Or are you?
I don't know. They didn't tell me a single thing, so I don't know what's going to happen.
Are you going to play like a lot of Dark Souls?
No, I doubt it because he already told me that in the morning I better be ready to run. So I'm like, run? I don't understand.
Taking you to Spain, they're throwing bulls at you. I don't know.
Something crazy like that. We're close enough to go there. Go to Spain, throw a bull at me. It's like, yeah.
Pamplona, right? That's where it is?
What?
It's in Pamplona, right?
I have no idea where they run bulls. I have no idea at all.
Well, let me tell you how your country works, or how Europe works. I believe it's in Pamplona. But anyway, no, that'll be fun. I'm so. And by the way, congratulations on all that.
Thanks. But yeah, we're gonna finish it here, and we'll see you guys in the next one.